Kathy Rose says it's not streaming. It's not streaming. She says it's not checking.
Right after you walked away.
Oh,
It popped up.
Wasn't quite ready. All right, good morning. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goings. I'm the assistant minister. I want to welcome you here on this warmer Sunday morning. It's getting a little warmer, and we're ready for ready for it to heat up, just like Reverend Karen's messages get heated up.
That's right.
Anyway, so we come together every Sunday to remember that truth, that we are whole, perfect, and complete, just the way that we are. We come to celebrate that oneness, knowing that we are all that divine child of God. So this Sunday is no different, and we are here to celebrate that oneness. And we have a wonderful guest musician, Cerise, is with us. Cerise is in the house.
Yay!
So if everybody would just simply sit back, relax, open up your hearts and minds for Reverend Karen's beautiful message, and allow yourself to get centered in this beautiful space that we call home.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. Place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
So right here, right now, in this quiet place where we have come to listen to that still small voice that lives and moves and has its being in us all, that power of peace and joy, love, harmony, happiness, wisdom, clarity, kindness, compassion, health, prosperity, and so, so very much more. That is the power that lives and moves and has its being in, through, and as me, in, through, and as each of us everywhere. And I know that that power is the power that is in charge in this day, that we are here with open hearts and open minds, that we open to the message that Reverend Karen will deliver, that is delivered from the divine to and through her. She opens our hearts and lifts us to new ways of understanding. That Cerise, as always, opens our heart with her gorgeous music. And so, because this service is a beautiful and exquisite, perfect idea in the mind of God, it is therefore one right now. So with gratitude and joy, I release this to the synchronicity of love and law, knowing the universe must always say yes. So it is. So this is from, my reading today is from the Science of Mind textbook, chapter 16, The Principles of Successful Living. Faith is essential to effective mental treatment, but this faith should be one of understanding. So faith may be said to be scientific. That is, we are now dealing with a principle that has been defined, and we know something about the way it works. We know how to use the law governing it. Faith in this law helps us to understand with greater conviction. There is a law of unfoldment which says we can advance only by going from where we are to the place where we would like to be. This is not because the law is limited, but because it is law. As we unfold in this mentality, the law automatically reacts to us. The way to work is to begin right where you are, and through constantly applying ourselves to truth, we gradually increase in wisdom and understanding, for in this way alone will good results be obtained. As our understanding unfolds, the possibilities of attainment will increase. Just allow that possibility of increased understanding to open your heart. So it is.
As I walk through the doors, I sensed God's presence, and I knew this was the place where love abounds. For this is a temple God will love abides here. We are standing in the presence of holy ground. We are standing on holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. So let us praise God now, praise God anyhow, for we are standing in the presence on holy ground. In the presence there is joy beyond all measure. And at God's feet, sweet peace of mind can still be found. For if you have a need, I know that God's your answer. Reach out and claim it. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. And I know that there are angels all around. So let us praise, praise God now, praise her anyhow, for we are standing in the presence on holy ground. Let us praise, praise God now, praise Him anyhow, for we are standing in the presence. We are standing in the presence. We are standing in the presence on holy ground. This is holy ground.
It is so good to have you in the house. Oh, thank you, Cerise. How absolutely amazing to begin our morning with, I don't know that there's not much you do that I like better than that. There may be something, but I can't think of it right now. Oh my goodness, what a spectacular way to start this day. Oh my God, look who's here. Love you. Oh, so welcome, welcome, welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and I am the spiritual leader of this community, and so many amazing things are happening on this holy ground, and I just rejoice in the way that we are feeling increasingly comfortable in being in this very room again, and the way that we have now learned to connect with all of you who follow us online. So welcome everybody at home. We're happy that you're here, and I got something to say today. Aren't you glad? It's like it would be horrible if I had nothing to say, plus nobody would believe that. The title of my message this morning is Interior Conviction. And that theme of conviction always fires me up, and I speak to it a lot. In fact, those are the days where I get kind of preachy. I really give sermons on those days when there's conviction involved, because I'm all for that. And I think the founder of this teaching, Dr. Ernest Holmes, was a man who demonstrated beautifully that living at a level of passion for standing in principle, for understanding how the law works in the ways that Clyde spoke about. And Sue, those are great quotes and fit so good with what I want to say this morning. I hope you remember everything she said, because I'm going to use it all. And the way that Cerise sang to it today. So there's something wonderful about packaging it all up. However, even in as much as I love to talk about conviction and the value of it, and I try and get you inspired and fired up and to feel that conviction so you can use it in your own life, I still feel that like there's a sense of either you have it or you don't. And so on those days where we're not feeling it, where we're maybe even having some periods of doubting or suffering, or you're experiencing physical ailment or limitation in any way in your life, then it's the tendency is to think that we're doing something wrong, especially in New Thought. Oh, we are so good at the superstitious interpretations we have self-imposed on a really scientific and accurate and precise spiritual teaching. So I want to sort of straighten that out all day, straighten all that out today. But I also want to give you some freedom to look at conviction, especially when we're talking about that interior spiritual conviction, to lighten up a little bit on yourself and to realize that you do have it, right? It's just not always right in front of us. We don't always have our attention on it, and it's not something that I want us to realize that our belief doesn't teach that you need to have that all the time. You could say, on one hand, you either have it or you don't, but what I want to tell you is you have it. And that's what the message is about this morning. We all have it already. I took my strongly passionate quote around conviction from the Science of Mind textbook, and I am reading from page 219 in that book, and I only mentioned that because it's the chapter that's on spirit. It's funny that I've talked so often this year about this chapter in the book, and I wouldn't even call it my favorite chapter. I have so many favorite chapters. It's not even my favorite, but I have noticed I've quoted a lot from it. And this particular little segment, I don't remember what the title of this subheading is, but it's on page 219, and it's something about understanding, which is so cool that you tied that all in, because I think that's an important part of what needs to be said today. How do we embody a greater understanding of how principle works? And I am prepared to deliver a message that will do just that. So put your ears on. And the good news is if you miss it, it's being recorded. You can listen to it again later if you think you missed any key elements. So here's the quote from Dr. Holmes on conviction. Somehow, there must come to each individual an interior conviction that we are one with the universe, and that the Spirit flows through us at the level of our recognition and our embodiment of it. This is not news to most of us. Probably as I'm looking around the room and I know who's sitting in the room, I can say that I know most of you already understand this, that you already believe this on one level or another, or you wouldn't keep coming back and you wouldn't be interested in the study, because you know me, I'm going to talk about it. But here's what happens even in the reading, even as I'm reading it to you. Each and every one of us, as a unique, individualized expression of God itself, each of us has this, we must come to that interior conviction, but the conviction is about, he specifically says, it's about the way we are one with the universe. And so I think that's the root of what we're teaching all the time, not just this morning, but that's the root of coming to understand that idea of the way we are one with the universe. We are somehow connected to each other on this great web of life, and what I do impacts you, and what you do impacts others, and that we're always putting our own little ripple on that into that web of life. And then here's where it goes bad for me. Then the words say, and we must be convicted that the Spirit flows through us at the level of our recognition and our embodiment of it. And so I just want to say this at the top. I wasn't going to say this at the top, but I think it's necessary. Don't let that discourage you. don't hear that as, because that's what I think we do. We turn it around and we use it against ourselves. And sometimes we read it and we immediately start thinking, well, if I'm not recognizing it, if I'm not embodying it, I'm doing something wrong. If I'm not living, if that's my reciprocal relationship, then it's not corresponding as high as I really want it, so something's not working for me. And we don't usually blame it on God, unless it's really bad, then we might blame it on God. But we personalize, we bring it home and we personalize it. So I want to take it to, that song was so absolutely vibrant and amazing, and it always is when Cerise sings it. And that song helps me feel that there are moments, I forget the wording, it's about, in that holy presence. You know, in the presence, I know I'm on holy ground. In the presence. So it's about our awareness of the presence of God in our life. And the way that we embody that, that's what fires up the conviction inside of us. That's where that interior conviction gets really moved and shaken and moving and active in our experience of life. So last week was Easter. We got ourselves out of the tomb, and we got ourselves moving in that idea of the risen consciousness. We talked about in very practical ways of making choices and decisions and taking actions that will get us out of that cave and into that risen view and begin our life. Let the old stuff go away and let's move into the new. And you know, doesn't it feel like that's actually happening in many ways on the planet? I mean, you could be easily critical of the headlines in the news and say that's a contradictory statement. I do not stand aligned to contradiction. I see a lot of good. I mean, can't you even just look at your own life and see how your own life is better because of the time we took to be smart and safe and to live our lives differently and to learn new tricks and to learn how to, here we had to learn how to depend on each other in a brand new way. And it's so beautiful just to witness all of that. So we're looking at that interior work. We're looking at what I believe is a good illustration of the creative process and how the creative process works. So the creative process, we always sum it up with that symbol that's behind me. Can you see it online now? Some people say it looks like if I stand just right, it looks like it's a little halo on me, right? Yep, right now? Now? Okay. So the creative process, the easiest way to wrap your mind around the creative process, which is an explanation as to how life works, how your life got to be the way it is, or how do we co-create with God the life that we desire to live? And it's all about these logical steps, a method that absolutely works. And in that process, the simplest way to understand it is the seed, the soil, and the plant. You take a little seed, and in a seed, any seed, is infinite potential. In any seed, you can't see that infinite potential. But if you go and you want to plant flowers, you want to plant some wildflowers, you know that the seeds you're holding have the potential for the beauty you'd like to create in your surroundings, right? You want to grow vegetables, you can start from seeds, and you can know that if I plant a tomato seed, I'm going to grow tomatoes. it has to work that way. That's how the law is. And so when we say seed and soil and plant, I want you to realize that the plant, that it would be the vegetable, the tomato plant or the wildflowers, the plants represent the physical world, what's in the exterior, but the seed and the soil represent that which happens in the dark, that which happens in invisible ways as we're studying spirituality. So we can study the process of how it works, and we can produce results, or we can look at the conditions in our life and determine what it is we want to change by planting a new seed. So there's an inner work, and then there's the outer workings of life. In all of life, it works that way. Very often, we use this illustration. This is a cup I brought from home. Though it originally started here at church. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I didn't steal it. It's not unusual to be studying metaphysics in some way, or spiritual science and spirituality, and you'll stumble along the illustration of the cup. So the cup has an outside, and I picked a cup with a strong logo on the outside so if we could really get it. The cup has an outside, but the cup also has an inside. And you cannot have a cup unless it has an outside and an inside. And the cup won't work if it didn't have an outside and an inside. But we are just like this cup. We have an inner life and we have an outer life. Our outer life is everything that happens in our physical world of form. And that's where we encounter illnesses or our financial problems. But the inner life, like the inside of this cup, that cannot be changed, the inner life is what makes us whole when you put the two together. And the two can never be separated. So when there's something going on the outside, the inside is, you'll notice there's no decal in here, right? The inside is perfect, whole, and complete, and it's such a good illustration of the inner life and the outer life. You simply cannot have one without the other. Now, this cup comes from a little experiment we did here at church quite a while ago. I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago, probably, I don't know. And we had this idea that we would find out, some of you really are always saying, let's make the church more green. And so we wanted to see how serious you were. So somebody volunteered to go out and purchase a whole bunch of these white mugs at probably the dollar store, I don't know, and brought them back. And then we sold them to you. And we invited you to decorate your own cup so it would be individualized. It would express who you are. You could write your name on it. You could do whatever you want. Somebody hung a cup rack in the kitchen, and then somebody else built us a cup shelf with several shelves up here in the coffee area in the bookstore. And we all had our cups, and this is my husband's cup. Did you guess this was my husband's cup? Why did you know this was my husband's cup? Because it's got a Harley Davidson decal on it. And so in this community where we're familiar with each other, and we were having a project and making cups decorating cups that expressed, that identified this as Hugh's cup, you would all know this was Hugh's cup. We do the same thing with our lives. We're always decorating our lives in such a way that we are allowing people to get an idea of who we are. So this is perfect. Isn't this perfect for Hugh? Right? So he just happened, he didn't go buy this decal. He had this decal. He put it on this cup. He thought it was a great idea. And by the way, the whole thing faded away in a really short time, and I think it was because we had to wash our own cups. And it turned out we weren't that committed. It was kind of interesting. So the cup is a really good symbol, or I guess a metaphor that sort of tells us a story of how all things come together. But there's a way to look at it and recognize the wholeness, which is what I'm attempting to do this morning, is to help you recognize the wholeness of your inner as well as your outer life, and that the skill or the tool that we can use to enhance that is that interior conviction, firing up that conviction. So this is why I liked your readings on understanding. The better we understand things, it says in Proverbs 4:7, that wisdom is the most important thing, so get wisdom. But with all you're getting, get understanding. So, if we don't find a way to understand it in a really practical application, a measurable way, it's not as useful. And that's exactly what any study of science and spirituality is designed to do, because the invitation is for us to look at to get knowledge, to deepen our understanding so that we can have that wisdom, but that we get the understanding so we can see the inner and the outer as all a part of the whole. We can hope the idea is that we can understand the concept of wholeness and oneness in a different way. So we decorate ourselves to show the world who we are. I think that's sort of interesting. And even if you don't decorate yourself, you're still showing the world who you are, right? There's still something that happens about that whole thing. I mean, we're always more than who we think we are, which is so true. We so underestimate who we are on a regular basis because the God part is, the divine part is so, seems so far, so distant when we're living day to day and we're experiencing real visceral experiences in life. So I had this experience that when I was thinking that you either decorate yourself in such a way that you're trying to tell the world who you are, you're making a statement, or you're not, and still you're making a statement. And then I remember this time I went to visit Reverend Eunice. Some of you will remember Reverend Eunice because she used to hang around. She rented space upstairs for a couple years from us. It was so wonderful having her in the building. It was very inspiring. One time I went, a few years back, I went to visit Reverend Eunice in California, and I spent a few days with her. And in the time I was there, we decided to go to the movies. And we get in the car and we drive to the movies, and I'm in a city I'm not familiar with, and we're running a little bit late, and we're meeting a third person. One of her practitioners, somebody from her congregation in Palm Springs, was going to meet us for the movie. And so Eunice is driving, and she's kind of worried because the third person is there, and she says, you need to get out of I'm going to drop you off to get the ticket, and then you and Mary, I don't remember her name. May I use your name, Mary? You and Mary should buy the tickets together so we can all be seated together, and then I'll go park the car and I'll find you. And I said, what? I don't know who she is. How am I going to find her? I have no idea who she is. And then she said the most interesting thing. She said, she looks just like you. You'll find her. It'll be really easy. So I get out of the car and thinking, what does that mean? She looks just like me. And would you even know if you saw you in another person? And so I'm looking around feeling awkward, and it was humorous. And so all of a sudden I do notice there's a woman kind of through a crowd of people that's looking at me, and she's wondering if I'm me, and I'm wondering if she's her, and we get together and we find out, oh yeah, we're here with Eunice. That's great. So she's talking. I'm not hearing a word she's saying because I'm just checking her out going, she doesn't look anything like me. Why would she have said that? This is a thin, clearly this woman works out and has not had a drumstick in decades. She had, her hair was naturally grayed, completely silver. It was so beautiful, and it just hung just totally natural. Like she could get out of the shower and she just showed up and her hair was just, she was so earthy and beautiful. And I kept thinking, why would she think I look like, and she didn't have on any makeup. She probably had never worn makeup. You could tell that this woman was a perfect gardener. She didn't have dirt under her nails or anything, but you could tell that she was really good in the garden, and that I would put money on the fact that she probably composted. Right? I have never composted. I can barely get my name on a coffee mug. So I'm thinking, I wonder why Eunice thought we looked alike. And I never did ask her because I found it kind of embarrassing. How does she see me, And how come we don't see ourselves the way other people see us? And then eventually I realized that it wasn't how we looked. It was the way that Reverend Eunice saw us on the inside. And maybe even more than that, it was that Reverend Eunice, who has been a minister a long time, it is a privilege just to know her. She lives this philosophy. She grew up under Michael Beckwith. She was one of the ministers that visioned for the Agape Church to come into form. She is one of there are like 8 of them. She is one of the founding people there. And so it's just a treat to hang out with her. And then what I realized as I was putting this together, I think that's what we mean when we say there's a way to see both the inner and the outer, and that she was seeing us in our wholeness, right? So for Eunice, it wouldn't matter what clothes you wore or whether or not you wore makeup. She knew that our spirits were like sisters. And so for her, it was like, oh, you'll find her. You look just like her. You look the same. And so indeed, it was a great compliment. And after I was able to process it, but boy, did I have to work on it for a while. In human terms, we do the label thing. You know, we decorate ourselves and we have personality traits. And it's part of how we reflect our uniqueness and our individuality and the way that we're not like, it's so funny to me, we're not like everybody else, and yet we so want to fit in. We don't want to be too far out there, you know? And so we live in this tangled way of dealing with our unique personality. And so personality, your personal identity, is how we develop the traits that we exhibit when we're walking around living our lives. It's the way we express our uniqueness. And so you could say there are all kinds of things that contribute to that. Some of us are extroverts. Some of us are introverts. I'm pointing to Sue Witter. For those of you online. And you might not know that Sue considers herself an introvert until you try and invite her to a social function that she really didn't want to be at. Oh, I hear the board giggling, because we have all had a funny experience with her. One day I will tell you, but not till I have her permission. And it could be a long story, but it was funny and very insightful. So we show up, and most of us are somewhere in between. Most of us are a little bit of both introvert, extrovert. But they do a personality profile. When they do the Myers-Briggs, that's the first one. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? How do you identify? Whether you recognize it in yourself or not, because sometimes we're surprised. Some people are really good at that linear kind of thinking, and they like things in order, and they do things methodically. And other people, like me, I'm really out there creative, and I can make a big mess, and I can function very highly with a lot of stuff around me. I have to force myself to clear my desk off at work so I don't frighten you too much some days. And I work well that way. And so there are all these right brain, left brain, all these different ways. I like shoes and jewelry, and other people don't. And I envy gardeners that have thriving gardens, and I envy musicians. You hear me say that often. And I think that when we look at how we put ourselves out in the world, like Hugh's decal right there, and we can wish that we had some things we didn't have. I do wish I wish I could sing pretty. I wish I could, I'd take Kathy Bradford. I could sing. If God gave me Ceresa's voice, I would use it well. I would have respected that, but God didn't give me that. I got other things, right? And so instead of me, I whine about it a lot, I know, but it's like I also know I don't need to go have voice lessons, at least not at this time in my life. It's not really what it is. What it is it's a desire. It's a God-given desire. It reflects how much I love music and how much I'm moved by music. I also thought maybe since I couldn't sing, I would take piano lessons, and I did. I studied for 6 months and in an accelerated program, and I failed miserably. My son was little, and he used to sit on the piano bench next to me practicing, and he would go, "Mom, you breathe funny when you play the piano." So I didn't get that, whatever that is, but I also, I work at not seeing that as a flaw in who I am, right? Sometimes we see ourselves and we see the flaws, and then we say things like, this is how you know, even if you don't recognize you do it, if you hear yourself say these things, you're doing it. Like, well, I can't help it. That's the best I can do. I tried my hardest, or you have no idea how I was raised. It's that place where you go, it's not my fault. I can't help it. I was born that way. You know who said that line better than anybody?
Lady Gaga.
Oh, not as good as Jessica Rabbit. Woo! Now, Jessica Rabbit is an animated character in the movie something about Roger Rabbit. I know, but it has a couple. Say it again. Who framed Roger Rabbit? Thank you, Miss Dora. Yay, give the prize to Dora. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It happens to be a favorite in my house. We've watched it many times, but the funnest part of the whole movie is that Jessica Rabbit. Now, they're animated. There are unanimated characters in the movie too, but Jessica, do you let your kids watch Roger Rabbit? Or is it a little too risque? A little too violent?
I don't know.
You don't even know
I've
it?
seen the movie when I was
Okay.
a kid, but I don't
Okay.
know if I would show it to my kids.
Well, I'm going to tell you about Jessica Rabbit. So Roger Rabbit is just this funky little short rabbit with floppy big ears, and he kind of is goofy seeming, but he's married to Jessica, who is drawn to look like a very well-proportioned, sultry woman. And in fact, they say, I Googled it, so it must be true, that she is considered she's renowned as the best-known sex symbol in animation, right? She made Betty Boop lose her boop. So Kathleen Turner does the voice of Jessica Rabbit, and she's tall, and she's voluptuous, and she's just gorgeous. But people get her wrong. They don't see that she's really got this tender, good part of her. They just see her by the decals and the way the body that she got. And so at some point, they're all picking on her, and she gets frustrated and forlorn. And in that great Kathleen Turner deep voice, she says, I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way. So, it's hard when we look and feel different than everybody else, and yet we're looking to own our very own uniqueness so that Spirit can express through us in the way that Spirit could not express through anybody else but us. Nobody else can do cerise, and nobody else can greet like Clyde greets, and nobody else can, climb a ladder like John Kruger, and nobody else can get the building painted like Ed Price. And you know what I mean? It takes all of us. We all bring our special gift. Fred does something. What does Fred do?
He greets.
Yeah, Fred. I was waiting for Jan to dare a statement there, but she has to go home with him, so maybe she's playing it safe. If you notice you wish you were like other people you admire, you are. You already are. And it's that inner conviction that you have to stir up to recognize it, that you can't have the inner without the outer, and you can't have the outer without the inner. And so there's a wholeness about you exactly the way you are that is exactly perfect. Nobody else could do it in the way that you do it. So I was looking at Thomas Troward. I've been, Thomas Troward and I have a rocky relationship. It's on again, it's off again. It appears we're dating again. I've been seeing him for several weeks now. Thomas Troward is the great metaphysician who has probably been passed for 100 years now, or more than 100 years. And he's the guy that brought us the creative process. So Troward gets a bad rap when we have to study. One of the required courses on the way to become a practitioner is that you have to take roots, and you have to study Emma Curtis Hopkins, and you have to study Ralph Waldo Emerson, and you have to study Thomas Troward, because those are the three people that most significantly impacted Ernest Holmes' life. And so you're studying the roots of our teaching. You have to study those three great thinkers. And Troward brought us the creative process, but Holmes simplified it, Holmes created the symbol behind me, and Holmes created the methodology so that we can all use it and apply it in our lives. But Troward said, oh man, he said a lot of stuff, but I found a new book called The Hidden Power. Woo! It's so exciting. That's why we're dating again. He brought me a present. Something I've never had before. And it's little essays, and they're written in a different voice because they're not transcribed from talks that he gave. So it's really juicy. It's really easier, not really easy to read, but easier than everything else. And in that book, he talks about the way our flaws, excuse me, I'm going to grab a flaw. He talks about the way our flaws can cause us to be creative. And when we get creative, we're more likely to not feel there are obstacles to expressing our life the way we want to express it in living. And so the bottom line for Troward says, that which seems to limit us calls us to growth. So this is such an interesting, you've seen these before probably. I picked it up years ago at the Renaissance Fair. And it's it's supposed to be a walking stick. It's got a nice cushion on the bottom. But it's so beautiful when you look at it close up because it had an obstacle in its way. When it was a tree limb or a bush growing, I don't know what it was. Somebody probably knows more than me. But look what it did. It used the invisible creative power hidden in the intelligence of the plant to go, that ain't no problem. I'm going to get around that. And it grew in such a way that whatever vine or whatever it was that was blocking it eventually probably got choked out, I'm going to guess. I don't really know. But somebody, then made it into this gorgeous walking stick. And seriously, it's very beautiful when you look at the close-up of it. So those things that appear like obstacles are the very things that cause us to tap into that creative stuff inside of us. And when we recognize that, when we understand that, and we put it all together and see the wholeness, the oneness, the unity of all of life with the Creator, with that which created it, the infinite wisdom of all the universe, now we can see something that is important for us to stand in. Troward said that this is powerful. The creative process is limitless, but it's progressive. The creative process is limitless. There are infinite possibilities. We all know that. But we can't really comprehend it because we don't get infinite because we're finite. In our outer, we're finite. In our inner, we are infinite. And so we have to look at the whole of it in order to understand that it is always progressive. We can do things with electricity now that how Holmes always goes, they had electricity when Moses crossed the desert, but they didn't know how to use it. Humankind continues to understand physical laws, begins to use principles that are unchanging, and voila! Now we have used electricity in all kinds of ways, and now we're looking to tap into the power of the sun and the wind and the sea, the movement of the sea, and all kinds of other things. So that's where our conviction comes from, when we witness those things, when we recognize them and appreciate them and have a little bit of awe around all of it. So here's what Thomas Troward says. We shall find, as our studies advance, that the prospect of increasing possibilities keeps opening out more and more widely before us. Isn't that beautiful? We can, as our studies advance, I'm going to tell you, we're never done. You're never done. Even when you're done, you're never done, because there's something that follows that is still life. So Holmes simplified that by saying it's an upward bound spiral, forever and ever expanding. And that speaks to my heart. Now, Trower did say this. He says, there's a problem with this metaphysical teaching. If there is a problem, this is the problem. It's the personal factor. And so now I'm going all the way back to the top of the message. It's where we get involved and we start interpreting what we think we're hearing and how to use the law, and then we inadvertently begin to use it almost in this superstitious way. We begin to build a fear around negativity or a fear of using negative words, not understanding. Troward is so clear on this, and Holmes is so clear on this, that yes, words have power, but it's not like God's up there waiting for you to make a mistake in your grammar and punish you for it. What God is this massive energetic force. When we talk about the way the law works, the law it's impartial. It doesn't have a concern whether you use the law well or you use it for you or against you. And what the law does is it reads the atmosphere of your thought, the most predominant things that you are thinking again and again and again, and that's why we want to wake up. We want to renew our minds, it says in Scripture, so that we can be transformed. We have to pay it, and that's why we call it new thoughts. So we can catch an old thought that doesn't fit, and we can kick it out of there. You don't belong here, get out of here, and replace it with a thought that is going to serve the desires we want. We begin to understand this as the personal factor, and you use it without guilt and without shaming yourself or shaming each other, because we do that too sometimes. Not as much as we used to, but I'm so glad. Troward says that we overwhelm ourselves. So who doesn't want to fire up their conviction? Right? We all want that. But we have different personality traits. So I come out with a fiery, passionate personality, and you could mistakenly think that your conviction should look like this, and it will never look like this. It can only look like what you will create, what it will be for you. And then the other part of that gets us in trouble is that we begin to think we can willpower this stuff to work. And it is not willpower. It is so vital for us to remember there is a power that is greater than we are, and we can use it. And that's the big shift. When you get to that place, you may not remember that all the time, but when you get to that place where you remember that at a crucial moment when you really need to remember that, then it's going to shift your energetic around the kinds of thoughts that are now activating the law, and you can direct it in a positive way consciously. So our freedom, I love this thought. Our freedom lies in our ability to form our own higher concept of normal. Your freedom, your future, the good you desire to experience in your life is all there right before you. And what fires it up into action is our ability to have a greater concept of what normal is. So here's a common one. You inherit some money, and you get this money, and then you're so happy, and you're talking to everybody about your abundance and what a great prosperity consciousness this is, and then the car breaks down, and it's exactly that amount of money that you need, and you start bragging about how great the law works, because that was your former idea of normal. But what if your idea of normal was not having enough money to get the new clutch put in the car, right? What if your idea of normal wasn't just curing that one thing that ailed you, but really being vibrant and vital in your body? There are just so many ways we can constantly grow our concept of normal. I love that statement. I think there's a lot to be said there. Now I'm going to tell you the most important thing I'm going to say this morning. All right, now get ready. Pull out your notepad. Not really. But this is you can hear the replay, as I said. But Troward said this. The great secret in all of this is to see the whole, to see all of it. That means there's good and there's bad. That means there's ups and there's downs. That means there's an interior and an exterior. That means sometimes you win the race, and that means sometimes you don't even come close. So there are all these things that are designed for us. If we could take that one little thread of thought that Troard said, use your, how did he say it? Use your seeming, what seems to limit us is the very thing that grows us. So use that image of that, the way that tree wrapped itself around something, I don't even know what, and it thrived. I even think of it following the sun in the way that it continues to wrap itself, right? You know, sunrise, sunset. Oh, God, don't sing. Okay, I won't. I'll try not to, but now it's in my head. So we have all of that. We have all of that. And the thing is that your normal will change as you influence your consciousness to think of greater and greater good. As you devote yourself to spending more time meditating and contemplating and seeking to understand greater spiritual truths. So bit by bit, it's cumulative. I love to say it's cumulative. Over time, a piece at a time, we embody greater and greater ideas of what's possible for our life. Life never goes backwards, even when it feels like that, as some of us are aging. And as we complain about our memories, or we have, pain in our physical bodies, life is still advancing itself because it can do nothing less than that. So Napoleon Bonaparte, this is great. Surprise, I'm going to quote Napoleon. Put my hand in my shirt. Napoleon Bonaparte said, if the principle is right, the details will take care of themselves. The principle is right, the details will take care of themselves. So we study principle. We look at these gorgeous examples everywhere around us, and the secret is then to make an effort to see the whole of it. The way in which my beautiful friend could see I was both this and that she deemed that beautiful. And then, this is the last thing I'm going to say this morning, but then Troard spoke about Pythagoras. Oh, you know Pythagoras. I'm looking at Nancy. The great mathematician who brought us geometry and probably all kinds of other things I don't know about. But Thomas Troard wrote this. It's like a little story. He said that when Pythagoras was teaching his students, what a vision that is for me. That's like, wow, imagine that. Pythagoras was teaching his students. He would bring his students, he says, to the dizziest heights of inner theory. They would analyze the theory and take it apart and study it, and he would lift them to the dizziest heights, and then slam them back down to the earth, right? And put them in the practical application. Okay, here's the theory. Now go out and build something. Right? There is two sides. And so Thomas Troard said he would teach them a generating principle, the principle that would make all that building possible, and that then there would be created a generated condition. I have never heard those two lines put together. I love that. There's a generated principle that creates. There's a generating, constantly moving, has to be generating. There's a generating principle that creates generated conditions. In other words, this came from that. And you can make that happen too. And I can make that happen too. So it's about seeing them together, studying, embodying it, using it, applying it, and then understanding it again, sitting with it, pondering it, using it, and then your normal changes, and you expand to greater and greater ideas and understandings of how it all works. There's a line in the Course in Miracles that says, We cannot teach you what truth is. But the truth, in time, the truth will dawn upon you of itself. It's just that line in the song, in the presence, I'm standing in the presence. And then where you're standing becomes holy ground because you see the truth first. That is the wholeness. That's seeing the inner and the outer. And when we have those moments, it sparks the interior conviction of our being. So think on these things. Think on these things. Wisdom is the highest principle, it says in the Bible. It's the highest principle. So get wisdom, but in all you're getting, get understanding. And here's why. Troward said, vigilantly guard the mental equilibrium between the two. Vigilantly guard that space of standing between the inner and the outer, but seeing all of it and seeing that as the wholeness. It's a lot to think about. You can do it. All right, take a nice deep breath, and we're going to transition here. We are going to move in a different direction from just talking theory and urging application. I want to just let that fall all around the room, however it may, and let's move into the words of prayer. How wonderful, how absolutely wonderful to just feel the love of God. Just breathe that in and know that love is the holy presence. I feel the love of God within me, and I know that it is indeed that activity of life, the impulse of all action and movement is that which calls all things into being. And so we know that right where we are it is holy ground. We court the presence so that we might deepen in our understanding of these universal concepts and ideas, that we can rise to a consciousness that is higher than where we were before, that we can know that our sense of normal changes from day to day, and that life indeed is always progressing, it is always advancing. There is always more desire of divine expression on this planet that can only be apparent through our own living. So I feel that love of God, and I know that it represents the inner and the outer coming together into that great way that things are already whole. I know that we as individuals are drops of this great sea of truth and of possibility and of beauty and of light and of love and of goodness. I feel that love, and I just know that it is that quality of God that desires to be active, to be expressed on the planet. It is a healing force. It is that divine impulse. It is that very way in which we in our human journey feel those intuitive urges to be free and to be happy, to have our lives in order, in some sense of order, to have an experience of beauty and just the way that we appreciate the movement of life and the birds and the flowers and the children and the way that there's just this insistence on life for more life. And so, yes, we open ourselves to the unlimited possibilities, but we open ourselves today to this greater understanding so that we might see the inner and the outer and realize that one without the other is just an illusion. That we cannot possibly be who we are without the wholeness, the both, the recognition. And it is that recognition and that acknowledgement, even if it's just a brief moment, that is indeed the holy moment, the moment of change, the moment of healing. And so, wherever there is pain or ailments, where there seems to be constriction of any sort in the physical body of our lives or our loved ones, I simply know that impulse of love is that credible source of good. It is the flow of life, and that at the sounds of these words, that those ailments are replaced with the good, vibrant, vital health that we desire. We allow ourselves to be vessels to receive our good. And the only question we need answered this day is, are we indeed ready to receive? And I say yes. I say yes to God. I say yes to life. And we open ourselves individually. We open ourselves as a spiritual community. We open ourselves as the consciousness of humanity, knowing each of us plays an important role. And we do our part to recognize with a vision in the way that God must see that there is a perfection trying to reveal itself on this planet even now. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite spirit, for all of this good. We receive our blessings. We are grateful for the abundance that we receive here at this spiritual community, for the ongoing flow of our good to be outwardly visioned in greater beauty and high functionality, and in the rejoining of a spiritual community that has missed each other. How wonderful to know that we are closer and closer to lunch in the social hall. I say thank you, life. I give thanks for all of this, and I release these powerful words into that law that already says, yes, my child, yes, it is done. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen. I don't know, Cerise. I just think God wants you to a cappella here all the time.
It's on the computer. Give me one more second, because it's so much better with the music.
I know.
It's got drums and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, we want that.
Okay, everybody pray. Let's put your prayers in.
Sometimes the flaw is the creative growth.
Yeah, where you have to go up around the no sound.
The seeming obstacle, but he always looks so calm.
I know, he's like, I'm trying so hard. It's okay, I'll do it a cappella. We'll do it a cappella. When life isn't going my way and happiness is hard to fake, oh God, I know there's so much more that I can be, and I'm ready to dive into the deep. Set me on fire, oh God. Set me on fire for truth. Set me on fire for love.
Set me on fire for good. Set me on fire for peace. Set me on fire for joy. Set me on fire for life. Set me on fire for more. I want more of you. More of you. When the world tries to hold me down, and it's hard to find my ground. Oh God, I hear your voice calling from within, and I'm ready to dance with you again. Set me on fire, oh God. Set me on fire for truth. Set me on fire for love. Set me on fire for good. Set me on fire for peace. Set me on fire for joy. Set me on fire for life. Set me on fire for more. I want more of you. More of you. Every dream I've ever dreamed, every life I've ever lived, every lie I've ever believed, every truth I've ever hidden, and every time I have ever feared the power that makes me whole. Oh God, I give my life to you. Set fire to my soul. Set me on fire, oh God. Set me on fire for truth. Set me on fire for love. Set me on fire for good. Set me on fire for peace. Set me on fire for joy. Set me on fire for life. Set me on fire for more. I want more of you. More of you. I want more of you. God, more of you. I want more of you. I want more of you.
Cerise, I know you want the music, but we love it a cappella. It was beautiful, thank you. So now is the time to celebrate the abundance of the universe, the abundance of our community, and the abundance of our lives. So if we can say the joyous giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. So it is.
Is that your music?
No, that's standing on
That's
holy
the
ground.
first song.
Cut the music.
It's up.
All is well. It's perfect.
All right, so we are ready to close it out.
Yay!
We are ready to close it out for the day. Thank you so much for being here. Are you all stirred up?
Yes!
Yeah? Gonna take home your interior conviction and make something out of it, yeah?
Yes!
No more old normal. Tomorrow, bigger expectations. Have a blessed week. So happy you're here. And remember, pray often and love much. Take care. See you soon.
Sounds good.